Um, okay, so if you got our email, we are talking sponsorships today. We all need sponsors. We all very, very much have sponsors in different ways. We go about it in different ways. We go about it in ways that work the best with our cities. Some of us have incredible churches, and I'm envious of you. And they just keep giving dollars. And some have really awesome engagement with nonprofits or businesses. And so this morning we are going to take some time. And I'm actually going to do kind of an interview style, kind of open discussion, a little bit of both, with a few or a couple really incredible leaders, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to hear your voice as well, just kind of the collective voice as we're talking. But we, if you've not met them, Jamie with Orange, and then Sarah Abrams, who is she's on the call. She's driving, and we'll video on momentarily. Oh, but so Jamie and Sarah are just really Sarah's with Ventura, and they have just looking at their websites and looking how they work with sponsors has been something I've always been really intrigued about. And so what's cool is I get to ask like, hey, will you talk about sponsors? Because I have that responsibility. And so we're going to kind of do like an interview with them. And then we're going to break out into breakouts again, with myself and Jeff and Sarah and Jamie. So two different breakout rooms. And so uh, that way, if you guys have questions specifically for Jamie or for Sarah or myself or Jeff, you have an even smaller group to ask those questions. And so this is my ask to you to write down your questions. If anything comes up during these next several minutes here, we want to hear them. The whole point of these meetings is to have the discussion and have the collective ideas and thoughts, and just be able to really learn from one another. So with that being said, we're gonna I'm gonna stop talking and ask questions for Jamie and Sarah. um, so my first general question, is kind of what is your strategy for asking sponsors, to sponsor you as a city? So do you have a strategy? Do you have incentives, and that what does that look like? And so Jamie, I'm gonna open up the floor to you to answer that, and tell us your strategy. And because you guys do a bunch of year-round stuff too, so that maybe that plays into your strategy, or maybe you do it differently for year-round versus your annual day. But yeah, let us in.
Well, I do want to preface, I'm sure a lot of you would agree, we are not experts, this city in particular. I was very like, sure, I'll answer those questions. Just putting that out there. We are still very much in transition of figuring out how to do this better also. So I guess the things that came to mind for strategy is we don't officially have one. Throughout the years that I've been with Love Orange, which for me has been the summer of 21, I have seen us really focused mainly on our volunteer day for the first year or so. And then we're transitioning to say we need to start letting people be aware we do these other things throughout the year. Things that we've done to help strategize and get sponsors. Not that we're fully funded all year, just to also put that out there. We've built relationships with those in the city. So city leaders, city planners, city officials, fire, police, all those types. Chamber of Commerce, I definitely recommend for sure. And Rick, the executive director, he has been a pastor in the city of Orange for like 15 plus years. So he has made it a point before any of this to really get to know people in the neighborhood, in the city, in the community. So we would, so that helped because building relationships when Love Orange came along, that helped for people to be like, oh, I know you, I trust you, I've seen you, da da da. Things we've also done is gone to any events in the city that we can, for the most part. So we have a July 3rd event in the city at a park, we put a booth there. There's a Halloween event, we put a booth there. There's a Winter Wonderland for Christmas, we put a booth there. A lot of it for the last couple of years is just to get our name out, because if people don't know who we are, they don't know what we're about, they don't know that through that. So any events, also ribbon cuttings, mixers, talk to your chamber about these, that we go to them, one, to keep networking, to say hi to people, not stress level. We feel like going, we'll go. We don't feel like going, we don't go. It's nothing stressful over here. But as we've built relationships, as we met people through different networking, we build a relationship. It could be new relationship, it could be an existing one, it could be an old relationship. Um, anytime we go to those, I'll meet different people because different people show up. I'll get business cards, they'll get mine, they'll hear about us, all that you do with networking, and we'll reach out to them. Not every single person, not every single time, but I was talking about with Rick, who's not online this morning, but I feel like we've been doing it very organically. Love Orange has been like starting out small with the focus for the volunteer day, which is huge, which is I recommend. But through how we've been doing it, we've now create ambassador packets where when we feel to go talk to someone, different businesses or in the city or individuals or whatever, we have an ambassador package which has a sponsor PDF. We have these little coasters that say, do you love orange? We have stickers, these little orange heart stickers because people love them. And we go and feel to talk to someone. So we'll go, hey, this is what we're about. So our strategy is sort of organic. We are not the best at getting year-round sponsorships, but people have started, because we keep going, because we keep doing these things on the volunteer day and year-round with our seniors and our homeless and meeting city leaders and all that. People are catching on and wanting to support us in different ways. It's not huge. It's definitely not huge, but it's definitely more than it was, 3 years ago even. And we're like, oh, okay. And we have incentives for a volunteer day, or anybody giving a certain amount of money. We have incentives. They get like free shirts because we don't have just an event shirt. We have an everyday shirt that we have you get a gift basket, you get on our social media. A lot of it we've just sort of, when I started, we had a sponsorship PDF that was already there, and we've just used that and changed it and edited that to say, if you give X amount of dollars, you can have a booth at our volunteer festival, which is now turning into a way for people to come and learn about nonprofits and have a great time at this festival. We had an Olympian and all this other stuff, which was fantastic. So it boils down to, I think, relationship building, that it takes time. That I was hanging out with a friend just randomly who was not on my list at all to ask about finances, to support us. And we're just sitting hanging out on our porch, and all of a sudden I'm all, why don't I ask her to be a sponsor? And I'm like, hey, and she already knows about us. I'm like, hey, do you want to be a sponsor for Love Orange? So a lot of it is very organic in conversations and people seeing what we're doing at an event, or they come to volunteer day. So it's, unfortunately, I don't have the strategy of like, you come here and you do this and you do this. And like I said, we were really focused the first, after COVID, really focused on volunteer day support raising, because that is so much money that goes into that. But we have meetings throughout the year we meet with nonprofits, we meet with people that are concerned about the homeless, that are concerned about seniors. And through that, people are making donations or wanting to be a part of what we're doing. So I know there's a lot of info and I don't want to like take up all the time. So yeah,
the
there's more
the
to it.
amount of nuggets that you just threw out at this call is wild.
Oh, okay.
And my favorite was, we don't have a strategy, but here's our ambassador packet.
That,
Okay.
but we just thought of that last year. Rick's like, what if we had like an ambassador packet when we go? Because we started going to places. We have a letter that says, this is like, hi, this is who we are, like a little bit about Love Orange in general. And then we'd love for you to sponsor a lunch, that this lunch has city leaders and we're talking about the homeless. So from that, we had these letters, which would say you could be a sponsor for the lunch, like donate sandwiches or food, or you could donate for a volunteer day, or you can donate. And so all of this, like I said, is very organic. We were not doing this 2 years ago. And so we actually have like 8 things that we have in this packet with like a coaster and the sticker, and like Love Modesto on their website, love them. If you go to the front, it has all the things they accomplished for the year. So we now have included that for ours because we realized we actually need to tell people the breakdown. Okay, we had X amount of volunteers on our volunteer day. What are we doing the rest of the year for
Yeah.
us in particular? So we're doing this and we happen to do this and we happen to do this. And I'm like, that is a really long list. So, but it is organic. And there was no rush on our end because we're not professional in doing a Love City anything before this, you know? And so we're just going as we go. We're like, oh, we'll add this now. And we're constantly growing in just
Yeah.
in general. And so
Yep.
yeah, so thank you
What
for that.
Yeah. What I love, what I love about what you've said too is that it's not it's not stressful to you and Rick. And I think that's really important for everybody to take from this too, is like
Yeah.
do what works best for you. If it feels like you're overcommitting or stretching and like it just is too big, what happens if you simplify? Like, and that I think is a really important thing for like every city leader to know and to feel is like your city is going to do it differently and that's okay. And how you manage something is going to look differently. And so that I think is a really important nugget. Sarah, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts and how La Ventura does sponsors. I know I see you guys like especially in the winter, like with all the holidays and things like you guys stinking rock that. But and then you guys have your volunteer day specifically in the fall in October. And so kind of just back I'll reiterate the question, you know, what's your strategy for sponsors and what does that look like? Do you have incentives? You know, what does it look like to have sponsors for you guys?
Yeah, so we don't have any year-round sponsorships. We are specifically event-based. So we have 2 seasons of time at this point where we are raising funds and asking for sponsorships. That is for our Love Day in October and then our holiday project in December. Um, and then we do have a sponsorship committee. So I found a handful of committed volunteers that came and joined on a committee with me. And some of them are um, really great about asking, and some of them are a little bit more timid, but they're well connected. And so
Mm,
utilizing people in those 2 ways, some people to ask and some people to make a warm introduction so that I can ask.
yeah.
And so don't be afraid if you're like, oh, I don't want to ask. A lot of people don't want to ask. Asking
Yeah.
for money is very intimidating and it's not for everyone.
Mhm.
And so, you know, just finding those resources of those warm leads. And that's kind of what our strategy is starting kind of with your sphere. So who do we ask first is the people who know us and like us and love us, regardless of what our organization is. They know me as a person.
Mhm.
And so they're invested in me. And so then they're going to buy in easily to what project I'm doing and why I'm raising money. So we start really small. You start with your small inner circle, and then you go kind of start to go out. So then who are those people that you do know? Maybe businesses that you frequent regularly. They know your name. They know who you are, but maybe you don't hang out with them. Those kinds of things. It's more of a warm lead. And then you continue to build out from that. So then it's like, you know, this last year we were doing a big neighborhood cleanup project. And in that neighborhood, there's a new developer that's come in. And so we went knocked on their door and said,
Yeah.
"You're wanting to come in here and be a part of this specific community, where let's put your money where your mouth is," kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? And they did. They came in with a
You called them
$2,500
out. I love that.
sponsorship, right?
Yeah.
So it's you know, finding who's who are you connecting to and why do they want to be connected to your project. It's
Mhm.
not just give me money, it's you're in this community, or you value X, Y, and Z, and this is a project that can that's going to help those very
Yeah.
specific things. So when you're starting to, you know, ask businesses kind of like a cold call, you got to give them a reason. You got to inspire them of why they want to give to you. So that's kind of our thought. And then I worked hard. It's still trying to ingrain it in the sponsorship committee, but like when you go and you make an ask, it needs to be a specific ask. You start with your specific ask. You know, can you give, today I'm going to ask if you can come in at $1,000, and let them tell you no. And if they tell you no, then you continue the conversation. Okay, well, why? What can you give? What can you commit to? And maybe, you know, maybe it's the season of time. You asked too late and all of their dollars have already been allocated to charities and groups like this. And so you need to know, then you say, that happened to me. And I said, okay, when is a better time for next year for me to ask you? So they told me when to come back. And that's when I came back. I put it on my calendar. I had a reminder and I made sure I was on time to not miss that opportunity. Maybe it's because it's just out of the realm. The economy is bad. Their business is doing bad. And so what can you give? Can you give a raffle prize? Can you give a $100 sponsorship? That was one of the things we did early on. Our lowest sponsorship level for the Love Day was $1,000. And we just decided, you know what, we need to come in at a lower level to make it more feasible to get people in the door. They have way less incentives. There's a lot less stuff that they get, but it's a way in. And we had 2 of those this last year. So we got 2 more people involved with us, 2 more, $1,000 more dollars that we didn't have before. So evaluating our tiers is important to us. We do that every year. Incentives for us. It's not a lot of giving stuff to them. I've found that a lot of businesses and individuals, they're like, oh my gosh, why am I getting a gift? I gave you a gift, right? So what I have done though is a business, their first year contributing and giving to us, they do get a gift from us as a thank you. And then from there on out, it's cards and that kind of stuff, but no like large, grandiose thank you gifts. They get multiple social media posts, and the higher they go in their tiers, there's different kinds of exposure. Sometimes, you know, lower levels, it's just a logo with a thank you. Other ones can be like a video of me specifically talking about the business and tagging them, giving them a little bit more exposure. We have some creative ideas on stuff that we might do this next year and take that up another level. If they donate, they have the opportunity to have a booth at our morning kickoff. That's starting to grow. This last year, we had a lot of vendor booths. So it's giving reasons for people to be at the kickoff. We all struggle with reasons for why people want to come to the park or come to the stadium or whatever it is, give reasons to be there.
At 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So those are our incentives. And then as far as like, we do throughout the year, we're starting to get more and more involved with community events and having a booth and getting our name out there. And that's just becoming more of a regular part of what we do. But as far as our strategy and how we accommodate sponsorships, and then like in March, I'll be sending out a save the date to all of our sponsors, all of our collaborators. I'm not going to be asking them for money yet, but I'm just kind of putting it on, my lights just went out. Welcome to Ventura County, where they make you put motion sensors on stuff, and if you don't move, I'm in this like dead zone in my office, or if I don't move out of my space, the lights go out.
Gotta do jumping jacks like every few minutes.
I kick my leg out every once in a while. So yeah, I don't know what I was saying, but that's how we do things. And then the other thing I will say is like sponsors that we have for our big city day and sponsors that we have for our holiday project, I don't blur the two. I don't ask the two to sponsor each other. If they come to me and say, I want to participate, awesome. Because I've learned that I don't want to cannibalize one project for another, right? So if I have a sponsor for one and I go and ask them to do money for the other, they might not come back for the first one that they participated with. So kind of delineating, keeping those separate, unless of course they come back and say, hey, I want to participate with that as well. Then of course we participate and go from there. So
yeah, that's really good. I have noticed on your website, so you have like little numbers too on your so the amount of years that a business or organization has sponsored. And I think that's it's like such such a small little detail, but like really cool because you could look
Yeah.
on there and see that someone has sponsored you for 3 years. Like that's incredible. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that's really cool. And I think like what I'm taking away from you is to not be afraid to ask. And I think that is one of the most uh scary things to do for some, but what you've done is you have found the people that aren't afraid to do that. And I think that's like really, really an awesome strategy is you've said, okay, some people aren't great at that, but some people are really good at it and have
Mhm.
no fear and can just ask. I think you're one of those people being from this conversation. And so that's just a really a good thing to note is like just that as city leaders not being afraid to ask and then not being afraid to take notes on those asks. When's a good time? How, what can you give?
Mhm.
And working with the organizations. Like I love that you noted that like, okay, if you can't sponsor financially, can you give a gift? Like, and that still involves the business. That still has them just engaged with what you guys are doing. I think that's a great way to keep the list growing and being added to. So
Yeah, I mean, I had a restaurant who was a cash sponsor in the past, and this last year his business was hit hard, and he was like, "Sarah, I don't have the cash to give you."
yeah,
And I said, "I totally understand it, and I appreciate your participation with us in the past. How can you participate with us? Are you going to volunteer with us that day? Do you want to give a discount for people who
yeah,
come to your restaurant afterwards? So we can get you business. It's kind of a
hmm,
win-win for everyone." And he said, "You know what? I can do an in-kind donation. How about I sponsor the lunch? We do a baby shower for a transitional maternity home.
hmm,
And normally we're kind of piecemealing food from a few different places. And he provided the whole lunch, all the
mm,
dessert for everything. So it was taking his resources that he could
yeah,
give, and
yeah,
he still gave in a significant way. So
yeah,
it's just finding, and it's knowing your audience. So who am I going to go ask? Am I going to go ask a small business? Well, asking them for 2 grand is probably not very
yeah,
likely. So
yeah,
I'm gonna ask at a lower level to make it more reasonable for them to say yes and to even pause and consider. And then if I'm asking a larger business or a larger corporation, I'm going to come in with it's kind of the art you're negotiating, right? It's the
yeah,
art of
yeah,
negotiation. You want to ask and make them tell you no, and ask them what they can come in with,
yep,
even though it's
yep,
lower. So
yeah. Which goes back to, I mean, what you and Jamie are both saying is we have to have a relationship. We have to
yep.
be in the community or at least have people within your circle, with your city, who are connected and who know you and who can say yes, even if they understand the love fill in the blank 50% of the way, they know you as a human and trust your integrity and your character and like, all right, I can get behind this. And so really just the relationship building that happens there. That's so good. Okay, I think for the rest, thank you, Sarah and Jamie, for there's so many good nuggets in there. And uh I for the rest of the time, so the last like 10-ish, 9-ish minutes, we're gonna try this. Jeff and I have not tested this theory that we have. Um, but we're gonna break out into two groups and you guys can choose which group. And so Jeff and Sarah, do you guys want to be in breakout one? And then Jamie and myself will be in breakout two. And then for the rest of for the audience, for the city leaders, you guys can choose your breakout room. And so come with your questions for Sarah or Jamie, and then we'll come back. So does that make sense? I think it does. All right. So Sarah and Jeff are in one, and then Jamie and myself are in two.
We're gonna try. All right, everybody. We're gonna close her out here. Couple things. Number one is every year we invite cities around the country, around California, whatever, to if they want to come and visit and to experience, we call experience lover cities. And so I know last year Katie came and so did Sarah. And I think many of you have come before, but if you haven't, I sent an email out. I'll send another one out as well. Just like, you know, if you're interested in coming, we're going to wine and dine you on Friday night, and then Saturday you get to experience it. Then we debrief, and it's kind of a 24-hour, you know, experience. But if you're not from California, it's fun to experience everything up here in Northern California as well. Stay a
In the
little long.
sunshine.
Yes, it's going to be a beautiful day today, by the way. Yesterday was crazy. Second thing is Volunteer Central. Y'all been hearing about this. We've been piloting this in Stanislaus County here for the last since October 1. And since October 1, we've had over 800 downloads and 135 people are now volunteering with not a lot of promotion. We haven't really officially launched it. We're going to officially launch this April 26th on our big volunteer day in all of our cities here. But the good news I want to share with you is we're at a place we feel good enough where it's at that Fullerton just received the toolkit and the keys a couple days ago. So Fullerton's going to be dabbling in this and trying to work this thing out. And then in the next city, I'm talking to Rick in Orange, maybe in a month or so from now, we'll add another city. It's kind of methodical. We just want to do this a little bit city by probably maybe like a month at a time or maybe a little bit more. If you're interested, if you're ready for your city to jump into this Volunteer Central and learn more about it, let me know and we'll put you on the queue as this thing continues to go this year. But super excited for this year. This is a game changer. And I mean, the one day is awesome, but it's not the end goal. It's ongoing throughout the year. That's what's going to move the needle in our cities. So that's all I got. If you have any questions or you want to hang on after the call, Janelle and I will hang on the call. Hope you
That
all
was such a good call. I really appreciated
thumbs
all
up.
the conversation. Yeah, like Jeff said, if you want to stay on, if you've got more questions, then stay on. But otherwise, we'll see you
Hey,
next month.
and real quick, those that were on the other group that I wasn't in, if you could send in, you can email Danielle and I
Oh
your
yeah.
your sponsorship flyers or however your material you have. I think we just want to see it and share it with all you. That's how I think we can learn from each other a lot when we see each other's promotional materials and flyers and stuff and get ideas that way. So please email them to us today.
Jamie, email that ambassador packet and I'll get that out to everyone.
Yes. All right, blessings all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey Jeff, can you send me